Okay, all right. I'm gonna say, look, welcome to Rick's Corner. I've got Christian Duque on here from Strength Addicts. He goes around to contests. He does interviews with a lot of people. He knows a lot of people, and we've been working together on trying to line people up for Rick's Corner. And I just want your views on some of the things that you've seen. How's that sound?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so tell me your thoughts, because there's an issue right now with Arnold talking about the guys being overbuilt for the contest and that it should go back to the way it was back in the 70s. What's your views on that?
Well, I mean, I would agree with him to a certain point. I mean, he's saying things like he wants to bring back the physique of Steve Reeves, which I think, honestly, like I said in one of my videos, you know, Steve Reeves' physique is pretty flawless, but even in the 60s, you know, against guys like Dave Draper, Steve Reeves wouldn't have had a shot,
Of course.
In the 70s, I don't think he would have had a shot. So the idea, I think what he's saying is kind of like something sort of like populism, you know. He's saying things that people want to hear, even if maybe like put into practice they're not quite feasible.
Right.
So that on the one hand, the Steve Reeves comparison I think is a little much, but he does make a good point about Cedric. I mean, Cedric had a great physique. He didn't have like the distended belly that a lot of people are talking about. But I think one big factor that people aren't really looking at is the fact there's a difference between, you know, being flexed on stage and being relaxed on stage.
Right.
A lot of these guys, you know, like for example, last year when there was the big fight between Phil Heath and Kai Green, a lot of the detractors, a lot of people didn't like Phil. They went to the boards with photos of Phil relaxed, where yeah, he does have a little bit of a gut, and they were comparing him to Kai, who was fully flexed. So they were trying to say, you know, look at Phil, look at Kai. But as far as the Arnold Classic goes, like I think what he said had a lot of merit to it. I just don't agree with the way that he did it. You know what I mean? Like the fact that he.
I think that's kind of extreme. I think it's kind of extreme. I think that you can go back a little bit, a page or two, and say, all right, bring the stomach down a little bit to give you the more V-taper that people were. They were aesthetically pleasing. When it gets out of the hand, it looks like a bunch of elephants walking around with some of the guys, and we know that. You know, it's just what it is.
Right.
But, you know, they say it's due to growth hormone, and I think a lot of it's due to insulin. I think that really drives it up. But, you know, there's got to be a limit somewhere where they don't go too far anymore. It's getting out of hand. You agree?
Well, you know, but I do, and I don't want to like be lawyerly here, but the thing is, I really, you know, because I've never used, you know, I mean, I've done pro hormones and this and that. I've never competed, I guess I should say, but I guess the reason I make that comment is I really don't know if it is a growth hormone or if it is the insulin. Some people say it might even be food. I mean, just the massive amounts of food these guys are eating nowadays.
True.
Because I think most of the bodybuilders are taking growth or have taken it at some point. And insulin, I think insulin is pretty much used by everybody nowadays. So, I mean, at least from the people that I've spoken to, I mean, of course, I'm not going to give any names or anything, but like, I think insulin is pretty much like the norm nowadays. And even the synthol stuff that a lot of people, you know, badmouth. I mean, I think the vast majority of guys have used it at one point or another, you know, in very moderate amounts, but
in moderate
but I don't know, but
it gets out of hand.
Yeah,
we all know it gets out of hand. I mean, I do growth right now. I do it in moderation just to stay in shape and keep the body fat lower, but I don't put on size like that with it because I don't increase the number of calories that a lot of people do with it. I mean, I'm like 2,000 calories a day. These guys are 10,000 calories a day. Anybody who's going to eat that much is going to get big in the stomach. It's just a lot of food. Right.
But I mean, with you also, like I've seen, like you've got a good video up about your supplement bar, and like you're kind of like Frank Zane in the sense that I think you eat almost like minimal. I think you're more about the shakes and the supplements and the amino acids, whereas some of these guys, from what I know, I mean, some of them are really advanced in the game, but they still feel like more is better. So they're eating a truckload of food, and they're not eating really the correct food. So I think, but yeah, no, I agree with you.
I agree with what you're saying too. They're eating a lot of quantity. It's just, you know, to get to a certain point, you just can't eat that much food anymore. You know, Go ahead.
I'm sorry. But the interesting thing is that you look at a guy like Dexter or a guy like Cedric, and again, I don't want to talk about what they may or may not be using, but I'm at a coffee shop, so if you hear that blender, I hope you can still hear me. I don't want to talk about what they may or may not be using, but I would imagine they're using comparable to everybody else, but they don't have the distended belly. So it really, if they can get on stage without it, then the question is, why are so many guys on there with it, you know?
That's true.
I don't know.
True. What started you out with Strength Addicts and getting behind all this? Just being a fan to begin with?
Yeah, I basically, when I got started, I wanted to like work with the local scene. You know, I really wanted to, you know, give a lot of the local NPC athletes, you know, a voice. And I actually found out very quickly that the local scene is really the pits. You know, there's a lot of drama and division. And right now in Michigan, I don't go to any Michigan shows. The only shows I go to are both of Dave Lieberman's shows in Ohio, because Dave treats me like just royalty. He's the best promoter out there. And then I go to the Arnold Classic. That's it. And I yet have to go to an Olympia. I would love to go to an Olympia. It's just, you know, it's so expensive, and having the Arnold so close, I mean, I'm spoiled. I just go to Columbus and spend a week there, you know?
I can't believe for that. I think you're doing a lot for the sport, though, because I read what you write and things that you do and what you get behind, and we need people like you. And that keeps things alive and keeps it moving forward, because you got a good positive attitude, and I like that.
I appreciate it. You know, but my only flaw, though, is these web forums, and, you know, unfortunately, I let kind of the trolls get the best of me sometimes. And I actually, you know, told you a while back about the haters, you know, like, I mean, here you are, a guy from the 70s, you know, wrestling legend, bodybuilding legend, and, you know, you're putting out all this amazing information out for free, and yet you've got people that go on your channel just to talk crap, you know, and it's like, what somebody once said that the trolls are the bane of the internet, and it's totally true. I mean, a lot of these guys, you know, they're faceless. But a lot of these trolls at Arts Muscle on the forums, they were like, "Oh, when we see you, this and this is going to happen." You know, I was at the Arnold with Rich Piana. I was up on a stage with Andy Hammond and Mike O'Hearn. I was with the BPI guys and Jay Cutler, and nobody came up to me. And I'm not a tough guy at all. I mean, I'm a tree-hugging vegetarian. Anybody could beat me up, but nobody came up and said anything. And that's really kind of what you're dealing with. You know, the same thing King Kamali had to go through, and Craig Titus, all these guys, you know, they...
The noise is okay. It's not bothering me.
Yeah, okay. But, I mean, yeah, so they say all these things, but, you know, when push comes to shove, they're nowhere to be found, you know?
Oh, that's the way it is. I mean, Rich and those guys are all great guys. I mean, they're really nice guys.
I have the biggest Rich Piana video online on my YouTube. I think it's up to like about 850,000 views, and you should see some of the things they say about Rich and the Hulk, which is the guy that's on the video with him. And you know, nobody. I think if you know, Rich Piana had $1 for every hater that confronted him, he wouldn't have enough for a Starbucks cup of coffee. You know what I mean? It's like nobody walks up to him. So
I know.
It's like, you know.
And you know what?
And Mike O'Hearn, who you've had on your show.
Yeah, he's a very giving person. He gives back.
Yeah.
It's really easy to get to, and he's nice. What are your future plans of what you're doing? You want to take it bigger with what you're doing?
Well, I would really like to have a radio show eventually. I'm just not a techie guy, you know. I don't really. I wrote 80 episodes of Muscle in the Morning for RX Muscle. I mean, I did all the writing, but I'm just not a techie guy. Eventually, I might do something. I've got 2 great sponsors. I've got myoatmeal.com, which I believe we share, and Anthony's awesome. He's always telling me I should, you know, get a logo and do this and that. And honestly, like, I think I'm inspired very much by Ron Avedon. I mean, I don't really get along with the guy too much. I don't know him that well, but Ron Avedon's got a site called getbig.com. And you look at getbig.com, and it looks like it's out of the mid-1990s, like a very basic HTML setup, no WordPress, nothing fancy. And that's really what I like to do. I'm not part of this whole WordPress revolution. Everybody's got WordPress now. I just really pride myself on content. You know, I feel like the bells and whistles are secondary. It's all about content. And then I've got, you know, my friend Jody. He's got a new company called cheapsup.com. And, you know, I've got good sponsors, and I'm hoping to eventually get BPI, which is like my dream sponsor. But, yeah, I mean, eventually I would like to get it bigger. But I think I'll be happy keeping it small, you know. Like, last thing I'll say, working with RX Muscle was great. You know, I worked with them for 16 months with Dave and everybody. But, yeah, they're really good guys. But the only thing is, when you work with, for, you know, several times working at RX Muscle, Dave offered me the idea of migrating Strength Addicts to RX Muscle. In other words, basically setting up Strength Addicts there. And I always refused. And it was kind of like with Dave, when Dave worked at Muscular Development. You know, Steve Bleckman wanted a piece of Species, and he would never give it to him. Strength Addicts is like my baby, you know, and there's no amount of money in the world that will get me to either migrate my site or give up my site. It just will never happen. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But as long as I'm in charge, you know, as long as I can like control the direction of it, then I'll be happy.
Well, thank you. I'm going to keep you updated with what I do, and you keep me updated, and we'll kind of go back and forth. I really like to push what you do because you're doing a good job, like I said.
Yeah, and I think honestly, you're doing so much good with, you know, Rick's Corner and AfterBuzz TV as well. I mean, there's a lot to be said about that. You know, a lot of guys, you know, your wrestling camps and your ebooks, and you're just constant. You're a very busy guy, and I think that's the best thing to do is always stay busy.
It's keeping me alive. It's keeping me alive.
Yeah.
Well, let's tell people where they can reach you on Facebook and on your sites and all that. So they're going to see this. I'll put it on Rick's Corner. Where can we reach you?
Okay, everything is Strength Addicts. So strengthaddicts.com. Yeah, on Facebook, I have my Strength Addicts. If you go to facebook.com/Strength Addicts, there's like 37,000 people there. But my real active group is Strength Addicts VIP, which you have to ask to join.
Right.
There's only 600 people in there, and really, honestly, you have to be like someone, you know, either a competitor or someone active in the industry. It's really not for everyone. I have to reject a lot of people, unfortunately. And then that's pretty much like really where it's at, you know, and like my interviews. Like honestly, I'm so grateful to people like Rich Piana and Mike O'Hearn and Andy Hammond. I mean, honestly, they are like the superstars that give me the time of day, and yourself included as well. But at the same time, like Strength Addicts is all about the NPC. It's all about, you know, the local and regional competitors and getting them press. You know, right now I'm trying to help out Tyson Coppett, who is actually third in the world in women's physique, and I'm hoping she'll be able to be on Rick's Corner. I've been able to get her on John Hansen's Florida Physique Report, RX Muscle, my site. But I've got to tell you something. When it comes to like muscular development and flex, I'm hitting a brick wall with them. You know, some of them say, I'll give you a perfect example. Some of them say she's not hungry enough. She's not putting herself out there enough. So what do? I get her on 5 shows.
Yeah.
And I tell them, well, I've got her on 5 shows. Yesterday, she was on the Mouth and Bodybuilding Radio, which is another radio show we got her on.
Yeah.
And Kevin Levrone, the Maryland Muscle Machine, is actually coming out with a brand new supplement line, and he offered to sign her on the air. So I went back to, I don't know if I get in trouble for telling this, but I'm going to tell you this anyway. I went back to Muscular Development, and I was like, listen, she's been on 5 different programs this week since the Arnold Classic, and she's going to sign a deal. Will you give her press now? Well, the new excuse now is, well, we don't want to give her press now because she's got too much of it. You know what I mean?
Oh, so my God. Like, it's either one thing or another, right?
Yeah. So it's like, you know, it's either she's got too little press or too much press. She's signed or she's not signed. So now she's signed and has a lot of press, but now she's like, I guess, too saturated on the media, so they don't want to talk to her. So really, honestly, that's, I guess, what my site is all about. You know, it's just giving, you know, the voice. You know, I gave her an interview right after the Arnold, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but I just really believe that, you know, press is a luxury. You know what I mean? It really is. And the people that control the magazines control who gets on the magazines. And I got to tell you something. When it comes to press, that can really make or break an athlete. You know, an athlete that wants to do this as their livelihood, if an athlete's not getting press, they're probably not going to get signed. And it's really scary because I'm talking about top-level athletes that are, you know, top 3 in the world at the Arnold and the Olympia. And if they're not getting the press, I don't know who is.
Well, have her contact me. I'll get her on here. Now that we know that Skype works, I can be able to do it.
Absolutely. And as far as I go, anything on Strength Addicts, anything. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, MySpace, just Strength Addicts, that's me.
Okay. All right, Christian. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rick.
Okay.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Cool. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
There's a website called wellnessfitnessnutrition.com, and Dr. Richard Rodriguez is the CEO of the company. He's a medical doctor. He does a lot of research on drugs, on nutrition, on proteins,
IGF, GH, testosterone, all that, and he has his own lab and his laboratory tested everything he has, including his proteins and all that are top of the line, everything he has. I want you to go on the website here and go up to products and scroll down and look at the new products, look at the hot products, look at those newly released, and check out everything he has. I mean, I can't even go through everything. The website's so big. But if you go on there and look at it, I guarantee this is probably the best I've ever found, and I endorse them because they have good products and I get their stuff and I've had the best results and the best gains at wellnessfitnessnutrition.com. Dr. Richard Rodriguez, he's a smart man. We've had a lot of talks about the body and what makes it work, and I urge you, just go on the site and look around. I'm not telling you to go crazy, just enjoy it and see if it's for you, because it might be.
It's rickdrasin.com. He is the equalizer, baby. See you next time.